Hi everybody, more of your educational series or little clips thereof. Right now we're going to talk about areas. By now you would have a full understanding of why we are staying in the Phoenix metro area. A lot of you guys come to me and say, hey, I want to buy in Phoenix. I want to buy in Mesa. Well, I don't think that all of you realize until you get here and get on the ground that Phoenix itself, Phoenix as a city, not metro, is 1.9 million people. The city of Mesa, not the surrounding cities of Mesa, but just the city of Mesa alone is over 500,000 people. So we want to make sure that we're not just going by the city, we're actually going by what we call the zip codes or postcodes. Now, I know a lot of us have been hearing and a lot of us have been told, and the excitement happens when you hear you can get returns of 18 to 25%. You can, if you have a tenant in place. Now on paper, it sounds and it looks very, very sexy. We want to have Bill Ross explain to you a little bit more about the areas and the postcodes that we're going into. And we do want a good return on our investment or rate of return for our net, but we also want to look at the capital growth. And one thing, with me not being a financial advisor or an economist or anything like that, but it's the fluctuating Australian US dollar. But Bill, please tell us a little bit about the areas that we're going into.
Right. You know, Kevin talks about zip codes, and I'm not going to get into the exact zip codes right now, but basically when we buy homes and we acquire them at trustee sales and all the different ways that we do, we look at the actual neighborhood, and it's the actual neighborhood that determines the true value of that property. And like any big city, there's great areas and not great areas, okay? There's areas that are improving, that are you know, coming back, but going through the whole dip that we did, you know, there are definitely neighborhoods in certain areas that you can buy a home really, really inexpensive, which, like Kevin said, on paper sounds like what a steal. The problem is that rents might indicate from a comparative market analysis that maybe you can get $700 or $800 a month for something like that. The problem is you might not ever be able to get a tenant placed in that property because of the neighborhood, because, you know, of crime issues, break-ins, things like that. There might be high levels of homelessness, which make some of the properties vulnerable to break-in. And we've experienced this, and it's a learning process and things that we've gone through. Properties that we've taken over for management that other people have purchased, not necessarily through us, that we've not been able to place tenants in. So even though on paper it's like, great, you can get this fantastic rate of return, but in reality, if no tenant actually gets placed and they're not paying a leasing fee, well, you're not making any money, and now your rate of return is a loss. And those are the things we want to avoid. So the truth of the matter is, it's really as simple as this. The cheaper the home is, the higher the risk that there are something underlying why it might not be a good investment. And I'm not saying that there aren't steals out there for a good deal. There are, and our goal is to bring all those to you. But if it really looks like it's too good to be true, you might want to ask a lot of questions.
It most likely is, and that's what we go over too in our training sessions, is ask as many questions as you can. That's what we're here for. If it's not on the FAQs, please send me, Kevin Walters, some of those bullet points. So again, it sounds like it's kind of like the stock market. When people say, oh yes, you can make 100% on your money, if you could, everyone would be doing it.
Absolutely.
If you could buy a $25,000 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house, everyone would be doing it. No one would be second guessing anything.
Sure.
And I cannot tell you, and you've worked with a lot of these people too, that have gone to other companies within Australia and have come back to us and said, I bought a $25,000 house, where'd you buy it at? When they tell us, why did you do this? This is what they told us to buy.
Right.
Do you talk to them anymore? No, we do not. They're still not even in business anymore,
yeah.
And there's a reason why for that.
We've had properties that have come back from other companies that ultimately, you know, I'd like to say we've been able to get a tenant placed, and we've not been able to, and then they've been vandalized, and then the city comes back and says, you know, you need to fix all the problems here from the vandalization, and that can be a very high expense with the risk of that vandalization happening all over again. So it's kind of a really bad cycle, and you want to stay out of it. Our goal is to, because we like personally in our group, we like to handle everything all the way from the start to the finish. It keeps us honest and not trying to put forth properties that aren't good. And we buy ourselves, and I hold these investments myself. I look to buy from our own stock, essentially, for my own personal portfolio. So that's kind of how we deal with things, is we're looking for the best deals, but at the same time we're realistic about what real numbers are going to come back to us. If I could buy a 20-30% return on my investment year after year, well, I'd be doing that.
We probably wouldn't be talking to you right now.
Yeah, the truth of the matter is it's just not real.
Yeah. So with that, postcodes, we want to make sure that we are buying around schools. If you're buying around a high school, there's usually going to be 2 junior highs, which is year 7 and 8, and then there's probably going to be 4 or 5 primary schools around that as well. We want to buy near good places of work. Mm-hmm. We want to make sure that those major intersection corners have a lot of work around them.
Sure.
We're not so much into the public transport like we are in Australia, but schools, churches, and places where people can have jobs.
And we look, when we go and purchase, we look for vacancies as well. If there is a lot of vacant homes in a particular area, it's usually a sign that's not good.
Yeah, and we don't go in there. If there's too many for sale signs or too many for lease signs too, that means we have too much competition. Yep. So there you go, a little bit on areas of where we should be purchasing and what we're looking for to pass on to you. Okay.